Hi, everyone. My name is Brian Callahan. I'm an English 9 teacher here at North, so hopefully you're in the right place. If not, feel free to leave. But I'm going to just go over the kind of meat and potatoes of the course, try to keep it brief. My other videos have gone over 10 minutes, so I'm going to try to cut it down from that. And then at the end, I'll share a little bit about myself. Feel free to stick around and hear about myself. Otherwise, if you have 7 other courses to get through, I totally understand if you move on. For English 9 this year is our focus is genres and storytelling. So we'll change different genres as we go. We're beginning with short stories, so we're going to read The Sniper next week. But we'll utilize these genres to teach things such as characterization, setting, imagery, and we'll just kind of keep coming back through it as we go through these different genres. Some of the text your child will read of Mice and Men, The Odyssey, Romeo and Juliet. Also, throughout the year, your child should always have a book they're reading on their own, an independent reading book, whether it's fiction or nonfiction. That'll be really important to the course and also their success. So they will be learning through journaling. So it's this idea of as they journal their thoughts, they get a chance to practice their writing, they get a chance to practice their reading as they're rereading, editing, and revising, and also their thinking or their learning. And they get to try to formulate a chance to stop and think, especially in this remote setting, is sometimes I ask a question and it's very easy for one child to kind of sit back and not have to say anything. So they're just a little box on a screen somewhere. So that journaling is an important time where they have that time to stop and think. And especially for those of us who are a little bit more introspective, is it gives you a chance to kind of come in and formulate all your thoughts. We'll also have an independent reading, and we'll use that for working on our own writing and appreciating and identifying a actual writer's craft, obviously our reading skills, and then also our learning as we kind of build our cultural context and these different things to discuss. The idea of when you go for an interview and they say, what's the last book you've read? There's a reason why that's an important question. It reveals a lot about you, showing kind of what you chose to learn and fill your time with. Ultimately, though, no matter what, is my goal is that your child at the end of the year knows that they've become a stronger reader, a stronger writer, a stronger speaker, and a stronger thinker. And hopefully they'll be able to see that, and we'll reflect on, all right, here's a complex text. You had to read Romeo and Juliet. Maybe you don't understand it on the first read through, but what strategies would you use to understand it? And I think that's success, is if they know how they could better comprehend it. As a writer, as we are doing grammar, I'm pretty grammar heavy. However, we look at it within your own writing. So we looked at coordinating conjunctions this week, and we're looking at how do you utilize those within your writing. We talked today about the idea of you can actually begin a sentence with a coordinating conjunction, kind of blow some of their mind. But we talked about how to do it effectively and why you would do it on a limited basis. But you could start a sentence with and. And then speaking, we will have a chance to speak different speeches. And then the thinker, looking back at the end of the year through all our journal entries, they're one of the journal entries in the very beginning of the year. They'll write a new one at the end of the year and kind of compare and contrast and see, has their thinking shifted or changed at all? Ultimately, for the remote learning aspect, I encourage your child to have their camera on. I understand with some technical issues, because of lag, it's better if it's off so they can still verbally talk with their microphone. I'll try to make sure everything's consistent and predictable. We start with this idea of good things. So like one good thing that's going on, they're always welcome to share and encourage to. Ultimately, my perspective, though, is what do we need to do? What do I need to do and teach directly? What do we need to practice together? And then what does your child need to practice on their own? And then we try to start class together and end class together. So if we have 35 minutes work time, it's right, you have 35 minutes, let's all come back together at this time and see where we stand. And then we do utilize the drafting process. Forewarning is when we do have a larger paper, and we'll have 2 or 3, is we utilize the drafting process throughout, and it becomes somewhat cyclical. So as they're writing their introduction, I'll provide feedback, and then they have a chance then to revise their draft from that feedback. And then we'll do the same for the support and the conclusion. So they should be drafting and revising as we go. So when they hand in their final draft, at the very end, it is their final draft. The grade that they receive on that final draft is the grade that goes in the grade book. There will not be revision opportunities after that because they've had multiple chances throughout the writing process to revise. These were the expectations that we went through. So I talked a little bit about that idea of like logging in a few minutes early, camera on if able to. One of the things, all this is great. One thing I found out is this was a Bitmoji classroom I made. I was very proud of myself. Thinking like, hey, you know what? Instead of just reading through the syllabus, they can go on this little exploratory exploration, as redundant, of a Bitmoji classroom where they can click these links, and then we'll have a Kahoot after. About 6 or 7 students per class couldn't get the slide to open up, so they couldn't access it because their internet was too slow. So all these great plans and all this different tech that we have available, but if your internet's not working or there's a storm outside and like the internet goes down, that means you don't have access to it. So I've made sure that for our Google Classroom pages, even if your child misses class for whatever reason or is removed, like is booted from the class because it's just kicked out because of tech, they can still go onto our classroom page. Our daily agenda will be there, so they'll know exactly what they missed. And then I label the posts with different numbers. So like, for example, today you can see post 12, what was one sample, and then it says due today. So they'll know exactly what they have to finish for that day. So that way, when they come in, when they do jump back in, either that day or the next day, is they don't have to feel like they missed or they're behind. They can get right back and be a part of the class again. And this is also a way that you can hold your child accountable. If you're wondering, like, are you doing what you're supposed to be doing? Is you ask them to open up their classroom page, and the due dates are on here. So like this one says due today. So it'll either say missing, late, or I believe turned in. As long as it says turned in, they should be good. If it says missing, you can ask them, say, well, can you just click it, select submit, so that way it's finished? Because they don't need to have all these late and missing assignments. There are some times where we have an interactive journal that's a running thing, and they don't have to submit it because we keep going back in. But they could turn it in once and then unsubmit it, and it should just say that it was turned in. But it'll still say turned in. And that way, just in case, not that your child would do that, but sometimes they might know they didn't do it. And so then they say like, oh, I didn't have to turn it in, just so they don't get in trouble. You can still ask them to turn it in, and then I'll email them back saying, hey, there's nothing there. Make sure you finish this part. Let me know if you have questions. So that's just another way to kind of hold them accountable. So the agenda's there, classroom's there. You can also check Hack, see how their grade's doing. Feel free to email me at brian.callahan@d303.org. If you have any questions, I'll also have a link to the syllabus if you want to look through that or get my contact info. The rest of the time, I'm going to talk a little bit about me. Feel free to stick around. If you have 7 more classes to get to, I understand if you choose not to. But anything you need throughout the year, feel free to email me and let me know. For myself, I went to UIC. I started at University of Illinois Chicago. I wanted to go into sports medicine. Ideally, if I could be the sports therapist for Chicago White Sox, that'd be fantastic. However, second semester, I was taking a medieval medicine through literature course because I was out of English credits. And so that was the one English class I could like finagle in because it counted as a science credit somehow. And I kind of had that realization of maybe this was the path I should go. So I made that decision. I went into English because I had the major change is I went to College of DuPage for a year to make up lost credits. From there, I transferred to Elmhurst College, where I double majored in English and secondary ed. I had the opportunity to travel abroad and go to Oxford for a while, go to Oxford University in England. So I did that for a term. I kicked my butt. I had friends who went to Spain and they talked about how it was a siesta and they went out all the time. I went to the library 3 to 4 hours a night. I had to read a Shakespeare play a week and write a 3 to 5 page paper on it every week. So it kicked my butt, but it was good. And I got to travel Europe and Italy afterwards, so I'm not going to complain. 2 years after that, I did receive my master's in reading from Concordia University. So I joke I'm a master reader. That's one of the reasons why I really emphasize independent reading, just the value of it and the research that goes into it. And the value of becoming a lifelong reader is just really kind of changed my teaching philosophy. I've been teaching now for 16 years. I taught 6th grade for 2 years because it was the only job I can get. But actually, it was a great experience as I try to learn from everything I do. To help me understand the structure that's needed. And for freshmen, it's really helped understand that transitional period, moving from 8th grade to 9th grade, and the importance of kind of supporting that transition and kind of being there to help guide your child through high school. For North, one of the things me and my family, we moved a few years ago, and I did my darndest to try to find a house in St. Charles. Unfortunately, I'm moving to Geneva. But if my kids could go to North, it would make me incredibly proud. I'm really proud of the staff that's here and also the community. It's a great community, and one of the reasons why our students do so well is because we have such a supportive community. My family, I have two boys, a 9-year-old named Landon and a 7-year-old. That's Chase. And then we also got a dog 2 years ago. His name is Dublin. He's become part of the family. We like to travel and go on trips. 2 years ago, we were able to go to Disney World, happiest place on earth, and it really was a great time. We went to Boston 2 years ago as well. Another important thing is extracurricular activities and clubs. So I always try to make sure they're in some sport every kind of season. So I've coached their basketball teams, their soccer team, their baseball team, just to try to foster that engagement. And I'd kind of do the same thing for your child as well, is I try to encourage joining a club, an activity, a sport, something else that they have to look forward to at school. So they have another reason to go to school and also do well in school and also build those connections and those relationships with others. So that's a little bit about myself. I think I may have went over the 10 minutes. If I did, I apologize. Feel free to email me at brian.callahan@d303.org if you do have any questions. But I look forward to working with you and your family throughout the semester and the year.